Can everyone see and hear me? Okay, great. This is my first time using the Hop-In platform, so I can't see anyone else except me. So I don't know who's on and who's not. It is. It is lonely. All right. Kelly, are you on here? All right. I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'm still looking around the screen to see how I can see whomever is on here. So just bear with me. Okay. I want to welcome everybody today. I will be waiting to hear from our speaker to make sure she's in. Kelly, are you on here yet? All right, I'll just go ahead and, okay. I can't see anybody else except from my face, which is unfortunate today, but I'll go ahead and get started. I'm glad everybody is able to log in to our 4th annual We Mean Business Conference. This has been a really exciting planning for me. I can see the chat tab, yes. It's been really exciting committee to be working on. My name is Wendy. I'm with the Chillicothe Ross Chamber of Commerce, and I work with small business development as well as work with our members to help them guide through business ins and outs, helping them with new opportunities and helping them to expand their business. We also have individuals who are moving into town who are wanting to start businesses. So part of my job is working with people like our speaker today, Kelly O'Brien from ECDI. I'm reading the chat as we go, but being able to see those through, get those people 2 tabs over. I can see people. Is that on the people tab? Okay. All right. There, I see it now. And I do see, I just can't see anyone else's faces. I don't feel like I'm able to moderate appropriately if I can't see anybody. Okay. And I don't see. Okay. Kelly, what you'll want to do is go to sessions. It's under the stage tab. There you are.
Hi, I think I found it.
All right.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I was just introducing us. So as I was saying, I'm Wendy with the Chamber of Commerce. This is unfortunately my very first time moderating this on the Hop-In. So on the Hop-In platform, so I'm a little at a disadvantage. So, but part of my job is working with individuals and getting them the resources that they need to start or expand their business. So that's why I'm really excited to introduce Kelly O'Brien with EDCI today. She is also with the Women's Business Center located in Portsmouth, Ohio. And she is going to be going over some really important information about business planning and also about opportunities for new businesses and possibly expanding businesses. I know with business planning, whenever I used to teach a class on that, we were always told that the business plan is an ever-changing document. It's a living document to continue it and to improve it and to plan accordingly because business is ever-changing. I think that's some of the stuff that Kelly is going to be talking about today. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Kelly O'Brien.
Thanks, Wendy. For all the participants that are in this group, I like to have kind of an open dialogue. So I'm not sure if you guys can raise your hand or Wendy can kind of moderate some of the questions, or we can type them in the chat box at any time, and I'll get to those as they come up. Because this is such a broad topic, business planning is it's super important, but it can take on various shapes and roles because it is fluid. It moves as your business moves or as you grow and change and evolve. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, maybe. Make sure this works here. And I don't know if you guys can see me, but I'll go ahead and get started. And I don't know, Wendy, did you give a background? I'll kind of give my bio really quickly. Did you do that while I was having some technical difficulties?
No, I did not go into your background. I just mentioned where you're from.
Okay, perfect. Well, I'll share a little bit about my background and how I got here. So I've spent, and I'll cover a lot of the business planning resources that we have, but I've spent 20 years doing business coaching with several different organizations. I was 15 or 16 years with the Small Business Development Centers, and then took on this role as the Women's Business Center Director for Central Appalachia. So have been a business coach for a very long time, and I love it because each business is different, each entrepreneur's path is different, and that's why business planning, I think, is, while it seems daunting or even boring, it's not, just because it is so fluid and it's representative of the entrepreneur that it's serving. So business plans are like roadmaps. It's possible to travel without one, but that only increases the odds of getting lost along the way. You kind of will maybe chase it or go down something that's kind of off the beaten path for what is typically your streamlined maybe product or service, and it doesn't necessarily fit. It may seem like a really great idea, but then you end up chasing it, and it can throw your whole operation off kilter if it wasn't planned out, kind of chasing your tail. But owners with a business plan see growth 30% faster than those without one. And 71% of the fastest growing companies in the United States have active business plans. So you can have a business plan that you do just to get financing and put on the shelf. But the ones that are seeing the most success is the ones that are revisiting that often and have active business plans. So I'll kind of go over it. There are lots. Ohio does a really great job of having service providers that are free of charge to help startup companies or existing companies that are maybe looking at a growth strategy for business planning. So I'll kind of go do a little bit of a recap of those for the state of Ohio. Their websites are on here. I'm happy to share their websites with you after this presentation. The links are there. The small business development centers, like I said, that's kind of where I spent a lot of my career. They do business planning services. They cover, and I'll pull up their map in just a second, but they cover about every inch of the state of Ohio. But they are a nationwide service as well. So if you happen to be not in the state of Ohio, but every state has a small business development center, probably one that's located very close to you. They are SBA funded. SCORE is as well. So this would be a lot of your retired folks that to still give back and mentor those business owners. They can help facilitate business planning. The Minority Business Assistance Centers, that is something that they do as well. They do a little bit more on the contracting side, but business planning is something that they offer. And then the organization I'm with currently, which is ECBI, the Women's Business Centers of Ohio. This is kind of our forte, and this is our sweet spot, is business planning for startup or growing and budding entrepreneurs. So I like to say that those are all kind of free. Or I should say no cost, not necessarily free, because we are funded by taxpayer dollars, SBA, federal funds. So while it's no cost to you, there is a cost. It's just you're paying your taxes. You get that as a service. But then attorneys and accountants, they offer this kind of service as well. You are going to pay for it. But sometimes that makes sense because maybe there's some legal structuring things that you're working through, especially as a growing company or one that's maybe doing an expansion or an acquisition, that you want to get your attorney, accountant, or wealth management individual involved. So small business development centers, this is the state of Ohio map. This is where they're all located. I've got the link there. I can throw that in the chat box as well. But this is all the SBDCs around the state of Ohio. This is the Minority Business Assistance Centers. They're kind of broken up all over the state as well. And then I'll share kind of on the Women's Business Centers. ECDI is my host, and that's the Economic and Community Development Institute of Ohio. We are a CDFI, which means that we borrow directly from the Treasury to then lend out to entrepreneurs, whether those are startup companies or existing companies. We do lending. That's what separates our organization from the Small Business Development Centers or the MBACs or SCORE, because we actually have direct loans available for entrepreneurs. We were just announced, I guess, last week that we are number one in the United States as the SBA micro lender. So that's pretty exciting, and that's something that we are hanging our hat on for this year, being number one in the nation. We are a nonprofit small business support center, and I'll kind of show our map of the next slide. But we're a one-stop resource with the different centers. Each center kind of offers a few different things, but we have training and that one-on-one business coaching and then the access to capital. And our mission is we invest in people to create measurable and enduring social and economic change. And I believe that entrepreneurship is at the root of this. If we can transform a person's life by having them and helping them start their own business, then that creates that measurable change, not only in their household, but then that kind of ripples effect throughout their community, because entrepreneurship is contagious. And those dollars, from the small businesses that are in our region, the last number I read is that they're churned threefold within our community before they leave. So the Women's Business Centers of Ohio, we are the only SBA-funded Women's Business Center of Ohio. There are four locations, and then we have kind of some subsidiary locations. But we give direction and resources needed to successfully start. So if you're a budding entrepreneur, that we provide that one-on-one business coaching. And then those that are growing or expanding their business, or maybe getting into a new product line or something totally different, we work with them as well to explore those avenues. We have a very robust virtual workshop training calendar and sessions, and a lot of those topics revolve around business planning or aspect of business planning, because business planning encompasses your whole organization structure. So those three pillars of money and marketing and management, and that's kind of the pillars that we focus our training on, and that's something that you can build your business plan around each of those sections. And here's kind of our main locations. All right, so now to get kind of into the meat of the session, I can't see if there's any questions right now. So Wendy, if there is, just hop in and let me know. As I'm sharing my screen, I can't necessarily see that.
Okay, no problem.
Okay, let me go back here, sorry. Okay, so why you need a business plan. And like I said a little bit ago, that those that have them grow 30% faster than those without one. And the fastest growing companies are executing what they have laid out in their plan. It keeps everybody moving in the same direction. So I'd like to start with the why, and I'll kind of break these down. And I've got notes that I would be happy to share after this session, but I've kind of bullet pointed that out because a business plan doesn't have to have the same structure for every organization. While there's 100 templates that you can find online, each one's a little bit different, but they all have the same similarities. There's not a right or wrong. It's whatever this document, it's living and breathing and fluid, that there's no right or wrong. And it can be kind of upside down and backwards to the person sitting next to you. But if it guides and directs your decision making, then it's beneficial for you. So the first bullet point I'm going to go over is it forces you to think. The primary importance of a business plan is that it helps you make better decisions. Entrepreneurship is often an endless exercise in decision making or crisis management, however you want to choose that. But it's every day as an entrepreneur, you wake up and you're making decisions that involve your business. So sitting down and kind of putting that pencil to paper and considering all the ramifications of this decision is a luxury that some small businesses can't always afford. But that's where the business plan comes in, is that when faced with some of these situations, like, oh, do we pursue this customer base? Do we look at this supplier? Like all of those kind of things that are big decisions, maybe you've already thought and put some forethought into that with the business plan. And so it makes those decisions a little easier when you're under crisis, or, as the old adage is, like when things are on fire and you have to make a really split-second decision. If you've already thought some of that out or ahead of it, it makes that process a lot quicker. But creating this robust business plan, it's a forcing function. You have to sit down and think about these major components of your business before you get started. Like, I think we often, see the dream bakery or whatever. We see it at its end, but we don't necessarily see the steps that it takes to get us there. So the business plan also asks you the hard questions. It requires entrepreneurs, business owners to ask themselves those hard questions that you have to do some well-researched and thoughtful insight to gather those answers. And I like to say, even if this business plan were to disappear as soon as it was completed, that, like it's like the dog ate your homework or whatever, that you've still thought through and been able to articulate your vision, because you've been able to retain that. So you've had that information already there. But it also helps you to kind of determine some of the gaps maybe in your marketing strategy, your operational strategy, your financial, like, oh, we've got a big gap here. We need to maybe pare this down. Those hard questions are often brought up in that business planning process, because you're like, I don't know what to do here. And that's why it's super important that if you are having a little bit of trouble, to seek the counsel of the resources that I'd outlined previously, or talk to someone that maybe can help guide you, because there is a lot thrown at you. Business planning, it also helps you avoid those mistakes. And we've all heard the statistics, 1 in 5, 2 in 10. But right now, and probably the pandemic had something to do with that, but only about half of small businesses are still around to celebrate their 5th birthday. And while there are many, many, many reasons that small businesses fail, most of them, I've kind of broken them down. But some of this could have been addressed in a business plan, and that it wouldn't have been so catastrophic. So typically, sometimes they may have already some capital that they can throw to start up a business, but they didn't look at the full marketing picture to know that there really wasn't a need in their community for their business. So they have spent a lot of time, money, and effort into starting a business that wasn't needed, maybe that need was already filled. But so they're kind of, there's 4, let's say, drill downs, or 4 bullet points of why businesses fail. And this is on the business planning aspect of it. But there's a lack of capital. So the cash flow issues, our businesses simply run out of money. And that's maybe because they did not work, and we'll talk a little bit about that later, on the financial side of their business plan. They didn't really put a lot of effort, or didn't do any effort to their financial projections. And looking at that 2-3 year modeling and what that looks like, no one could have predicted a pandemic, but we have these businesses that are surviving, some are thriving, and 1, they were maybe able to pivot, but 2, they were really able to crunch their cash flow and make it work. The second reason would be an inadequate team, or kind of staff members. And this is outlined in that management section of your business plan. This cannot be articulated enough, and is the importance of hiring the right people to help you run your business. So some of you that are entrepreneurs, you may like, well, I'm only a sole proprietor, it's just me. Okay, well, what happens if you grow? And to look at building and bringing on that right teammate. Some of you are like, well, I'm going to have employees right out of the gate. And it is so important to hire the right people to help you run, because when you have to step away from the shop, or you have to step away from business, they're the face of your operation. They're the ones conducting that business. And so some of that can be, or all of that should be addressed in the business plan, where you've got job descriptions, you've got processes and policies and all of that, so it doesn't turn around to bite you on the back end. 3 is stiff competition. I think I often say, it's one of my favorite quotes that I use all the time, but competition sharpens pencils. But it can also sharpen your pencil where you have nothing left. It's tough to generate a steady profit when you have a lot of competitors in your space. And so you can look at, like, I'm from a small community in Southern Ohio, and we have, I would say, just in the little village that I reside, I think there's 5 pizza shops. And while they're all in business, I don't know that our community could support a 6th one. And so like to start looking at those and looking at your competitors in the landscape. Now you may say, I'm going to put in a pizza shop anyway, and I'm going to make it better than all the other pizza shops. Okay, so that's your competitive advantage that you really have to hone, and you really have to put in a lot of practical knowledge and a lot of effort into your marketing and your processes in order to make sure that you have a space and you've carved out a space within the market. The other thing, the fourth one is pricing. Some entrepreneurs price their products or services too high or too low. You hear like, oh, their prices are too high, and so they may have a customer base or they may not, but the ones that are too low, they find that 6 months into the business that they're no longer cash flow positive, that they've maybe used up all their cash on hand or their working capital. And then they're trying to quickly adjust their pricing, and then their customer base becomes furious that they've had to raise their prices very quick or very dramatically. So both of those scenarios can be an absolute recipe for disaster.
Kelly, I have a question that someone has.
Go for it.
Right. Ashley Dawsey is asking, what are the best tools to use to complete market research? That may be coming up here shortly, but I just wanted to get that question out there.
Yeah, I will cover a little bit of that, but let's talk, when we kind of get into the marketing section, we'll talk tools. I didn't go into that a whole lot in this session, but I would be happy to break that down because a lot of those tools are based on the industry that they're going in. At least what I find, there's a lot of just different reports and things that you can pull. So table that question. We'll come around to it, in probably 15 minutes, and we'll have a discussion on that. Is that okay?
Perfect.
Okay. Oh, let me kind of go back. All right. So we got the avoid mistakes. I think I covered everything on there. The fourth one is proving the viability of the business. And this is one that I see a lot as I'm coaching, those, I'll say, nascent entrepreneurs that maybe don't have a business. They're just in the thinking stage right now. But most businesses are created out of passion. And while passion can be a great motivator, it's not a great proof of concept or a great proof point, so to speak. So planning out that I have a real passion for, I'll use, making pizzas, but again, your market may be saturated, or I have a passion, for a lot of different things that doesn't mean it's going to be fruitful. But planning out exactly how you're going to turn that vision into a successful business is probably perhaps the most important step between concept to reality. So you have the passion, it's doing that homework in between, or building that bridge between that concept to reality, if we want to use the roadmap adage. Business plans, they can help confirm this grand idea that it makes sound business sense and that it's, incorporates sound business principles. And a critical component, so kind of what we were just talking about, is the market research section part of that. Market research can offer deep insight into your customers, your competition, and the industry. So those three things are kind of what your market research should be made up of. And not only can it enlighten the entrepreneurs who are starting, a new business, but it also informs existing businesses on activities like their marketing or advertising, social media, releasing new products and services. A lot of my clients are companies that I work with are those existing companies. So I have kind of probably, I'll say, a 50-50 split. And, they're at that growth stage. So looking to bring on a new product or service. And sometimes it can really take you away from your core business. But you're like, oh, well, there's lots of money to be made here. But at what cost? And so that's kind of where you don't have to create a whole business plan, but you can model, what bringing this new product or new service on, is it worth that investment? And the fifth one is setting benchmarks or goals. Without a business plan, objectives often become, I'll say, arbitrary, without much rhyme or reason behind them. And having a business plan can make those benchmarks very intentional, but also show the consequences of them. and they can help to keep you accountable to your long-term vision and strategy. And that's kind of where that goal setting comes in. Like if I often encourage my entrepreneurs or business owners, set your sales goal, because we always have those. Maybe it's the number of customer goal. Maybe it's like I want to bring on more suppliers. Whatever that goal looks like, that allows you to check that box and holds you accountable to obtaining that or achieving that. So the business plan is crucial for kind of that benchmarking goals, and then it all has to tie into kind of what your mission and vision is. And so it kind of just falls in line. The sixth part of the why is often as I'm working with entrepreneurs, they come to me first. And the reason that they want this is that they're, purchasing a business or they're starting a business, and they said, well, the bank said I need a business plan. And they do. For underwriting, they need that business plan so that they can go off anything. But it's kind of backwards, maybe to have the business plan first and then go secure financing. That way you've worked through some of the kinks and you kind of know where you're at before you even go to the bank. Because sometimes I find, as we're working with entrepreneurs, that the business that they're looking to incorporate is not even viable. And it could have saved them a couple bank visits and a little bit of heartache. But kind of some stats is that if you have a business plan, you are 2.5 times more likely to get funded as when you walk into a bank or through our organization, ECDI. That's just you have to have a business plan. If you're planning on pitching, so it's not only maybe that traditional financing, maybe angel investors or venture capitalists, or your friends and your family, they're like, hey, what am I getting myself into? Having that business plan is crucial. They want to know, after all, that's why they're putting their money into your company, and they want to know that it's going into good hands and it's viable. And sometimes you can get some really great feedback from those. The next point, so point 7, I don't have them numbered out here, but is understanding the business landscape. So no business is an island. Everyone is kind of tied in some way, shape, or form, whether that's supply chain or just even sharing customer bases. While you have a strong handle on everything happening under your own roof, so under your own business, it's equally or even more so important to understand the landscape around you and what's happening. And I can point to several examples, but there was a community that I worked in, and a major employer started issuing WARN notices, and there was major layoffs, and it was it was the biggest employer in that little area. And this company had just started, and when people's disposable incomes shrink, so does kind of the frill, for what the type of business they had. And they continued to push forth and buy more inventory, and all the warning signs were saying, just ease up, ease up, ease up, because the landscape is not good right now for your type of company. Or you need to pivot. Maybe you need to, since you're, a boutique clothing shop, you may need to pivot and start to look at online. So you're capturing a different market share than what's currently happening in your own community. So it's very conscientious of entrepreneurs to know what's happening, whether it's politically, geographically, with the weather, with the pandemic, all of those. Be aware, of what's happening and how it can impact your business. That's why it's important. We'll talk a little bit later about a SWOT. We often, kind of laugh, when you're doing your SWOT box, your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, that we can now add a pandemic to a threat, that it's very real and that it has major impact on a business. And I had not ever had to put that 2 or 3 years ago, had never had that in the threat box. So that was a new one. Do we have any questions there? Wendy, is there anything?
Nope, nothing yet.
Okay. All right. Sorry, I can't see the chat box, so I don't want to go too fast. Reducing risks. So entrepreneurship in itself, business ownership, is a risk. It's a major risk. But that risk becomes slightly more manageable once you've kind of got a well-crafted business plan that you've maybe been able to think through some of, like I say, worst case scenarios, and have kind of got a management plan or risk management plan for anything adverse that can happen. So drawing up, kind of revenue and expense projections, devising logistics and operational plans, and understanding the market and competitive landscape. And so you kind of see that picture, and then you're like, oh, okay, what happens if this? So, you can kind of pick that, like, what happens if we lose a major employer in my community? How is this going to impact? And I like to tell, and I work with my entrepreneurs, and I would, just like I would work with you, to kind of go through some of those worst case scenarios, whether it's in your head or just talk them out with someone. Like, what if this happens? What if this happens? What if, right now we've got a lot of our businesses that they're experiencing supply chain issues, and that they're like, we can't get this. So, I was with a company last week, and she was doing a major event for a corporate event. She owns a bakery. And because of COVID, you have to individually pack everything. Well, shipping logistics and whatnot happened, did not get her individual containers, even though she'd ordered them 4 weeks ahead of time. And so you're planning for plan B, on a $6,000 or $7,000 account. And what are we going to do? How are we going to do, what are we going to do with these cupcakes? And so, not that that's every scenario, but you have to have always, as an entrepreneur, the plan B or C, because plan A typically is not going to work out. So having a business plan allows you to leave, I'll say, less up to chance, make better decisions, and enjoy kind of that clear view of your future company. Here's where you are. I see what I want. I see it, because most entrepreneurs, they can visualize what their business looks like, whether that's a brick and mortar or an online or service provider. I know what that looks like. It just helps identify the steps to get there. This is probably my favorite one, is when it comes to business planning. Often we see people that they do create a business plan, and the only sole purpose that they create a business plan for is to secure that financing. And then they put that business plan on a shelf, never to be revisited again. Well, until they're like, oh, I'm a sole proprietorship, I'm growing, I need to hire someone, but I don't want them as an employee, I want them a contractor. And so you kind of are going through trying to find a contractor for your company. It's super easy, if your business plan is up to date, to hand them your business plan. You can redact the financials or, whatnot, but share that business plan with them. That way they understand your company, they understand your mission, they understand your vision, they know what you're wanting to do. And you can give that to not only maybe future contractors, but your attorneys, your accountants, anyone that wants to know something about you. I had done an article in a local paper for an entrepreneur that was having her grand opening. And I said, just send them your business plan. They can capture some of the information. You can redact a lot of it, the personal information, but like that executive summary piece that's on that business plan, send that to them. That way they know exactly who you are. And it will save you a lot of time of kind of rehashing your story, which is important, but they can get a little bit more nitty and gritty into the details of your organization and your company. And so it's important to keep it up to date, just because you never know when you need to bring someone on board. The last point is knowing when to sell. As entrepreneurs, we often think about the beginning. We don't think about the ending. And until it's right up on us, and we've been doing this for 35 years, and we're like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm ready to, to retire and travel, or hold grandbabies, or whatever that looks like for you. And but you've not visited your business plan, or often I see they've not had their business plan up to date in 20 years, or since the last time that they sought financing. And that makes it really hard to sell a company, especially to maybe another buyer, maybe someone in your town, or even investors or whatnot. So that it becomes not only a business document, it's now a selling document that's outlined the processes, your suppliers, all of those. It makes the sell transaction so much smoother. And you also have kind of historical and data and current business plans to present to them. It's a significant competitive advantage in attracting qualified buyers and recognizing the best price. At the end of the day, that's what it's about, is recognizing and obtaining and getting the best price for your business. Any questions on that? How are we doing on time, Wendy? Good?
Yeah, we're doing good.
Okay. Let me go back. I'm gonna escape this real quick so I can see your faces, or at least your question here. Where was that question? Okay, what are the best tools to use in complete market research? So I often like to drill down. So if you're looking at a brick and mortar store or location, and I don't know actually on what your scenario is, and you can type that in there. But if you're looking for the best tools, is look at that demographic data that is surrounding your place of business. So, if I'll use the pizza shop example. If you are putting in a pizza shop, I would want to know, like, what's the population of my target market? So, whether that's a 15-mile radius of outside. So look at that. And you can find a lot of this data. Ohio does a really good job on their county, business county profiles. So you'll kind of know what their median income is, what the population is, and you can drill down and kind of sort some of that information there. And then there's some other reports on like consumer expenditures. So you know what the average, and I can send you links to all this data, what the average family spends a month on pizza. What their average budget is on dining out, so to speak. So you can figure, okay, well, I can capture a share of that. That is not only going to benefit your marketing plan, that's also going to kind of base what you can start to build your financials on. So that would be, there's a whole list of them. And again, you can email me, I'll share my contact info, and I can send you a whole list of kind of tools that I would use based on industry. I love IBIS World. It is a subscription, but the small business development centers, your local universities, they typically have a subscription to IBIS World that has great market research info. The census, actually, it's new. So you've got new, fresh data, which is exciting for any of us data nerds, to capture some of that information. And so following not only the census, but you'll have that consumer expenditure data report coming out, or the American Household Survey, I believe. So if that's not been released, it will be released this year. So there's a lot of that information that you can gather to help make educated decisions for your business.
Kelly,
yes.
Deborah at the African American Chamber in Cincinnati has mentioned that the MBAC centers have
IBIS World.
We have IBIS World. So that would be
wonderful.
That would be a great resource to access the IBIS World information.
Yes. So Deborah has put that in the chat. IBIS is probably one of my favorites because it kind of gives this whole global view. You can get a lot of the competitor landscape, but it just has a really, really good insight tool that I appreciate. So, Ashley, I hope that answered your question. All right, I'll go back to sharing my screen.
Kelly, I do have a large group of folks who will be wanting your notes from today. Yes. And perhaps we could put kind of a short list of all of those resources for market research in those notes.
Yes, absolutely. I will do that. You kind of see my notes. I just typed them out. I'll just share them with you, Wendy. And if you want to give that, to every participant and share that, I'd be happy to do that.
That'd be perfect.
Okay. Sorry, it's a lot of information, and I don't like slides, as you can tell, with lots of words. So I know it's kind of hard on the presentation, and if we were together, I would give you handouts, but I will share that with everyone. All right, let's go back. Okay, can you guys see that?
Yes.
Okay. So again, I kind of bullet pointed out the parts of the plan, and I spoke earlier that you don't have to have these in any particular order, except the executive summary, being first. The rest of it can kind of be fluid. Again, it's your document. I've seen some really great business plans that don't hardly have any words at all, that they use documents that are going to be utilized in their business every single day. So that maybe they have their menu and they have their pricing from that, and then they kind of drill that down. They have their policies and procedures for their employees. So it has very, very little written text, but it's all working documents. And if that is what works for you, I encourage that. That keeps it up to date, and it's not an exercise in futility or a plan in futility. It's something that is functional for your business, and that's not right or wrong. I actually encourage that a lot. Use it to, create something that's going to benefit your business and be every day that you live it and breathe it. So I'm going to grab a drink real quick. So to talk about the executive summary, the purpose of this, and this is often what you would share, maybe if someone's like, oh, tell me about your business. You can share the executive summary. You can redact some of the financial stuff that's discussed in there, but it gives a high level view of the company and the market before delving into real specific details. It appears first in your plan, but it's often written last as it provides a snapshot of your company, explaining, who you are, what you do, and why you do it. It's short, concise, and it's very optimistic. So it's kind of that elevator pitch in written form of your business to capture the reader's attention and create that kind of that draw or pull to learn more. The second section is business and industry overview. Again, this is going to be a little bit different for every entrepreneur or every company, but you're going to describe your company and the business model by summarizing what your company does, your mission statement, your location details, kind of your business structure and the business owner details, and then the marketplace that you're seeking to serve, and what your products and services are that meet those needs. We have whole seminars and sessions on defining your business's purpose, like your mission statement and your vision statement. This is where you would incorporate that at, but also make sure not to leave it so fluffy and so ambiguous that you're actually drilling down into specific business goals and objectives. So this is kind of when we talked earlier about how important it is for those objectives and goals. This is where that would go. And providing background information on the company, on the business owners, on key employees, all of that. So the third section is that market analysis and competition. This is my favorite. I have been known, so I guess I didn't get over that in my bio. Not only have I been a business coach for 20 years, I would say I'm a self-proclaimed serial entrepreneur. So I have lots of businesses on the side, and they kind of ebb and flow. But I'll pick them up and put them down, and then they change often. Some of them have been with me for a long time, and then others that I'm like, oh, there's a business opportunity. So I like to say that I spend a lot of time on my market analysis and competition, just because that's, one, I'm a competitor by nature, but two, it allows me to really hone in and create my advantage in the marketplace. So I encourage everyone to do that. It's fun, and you can get to scout your competition. And I do that often and encourage my entrepreneurs, go find everything you can about your competition. Find what they do well, write it out. Find what they don't do well, write that out too, and do what they don't do well, do it better. And then what they do well, still do that better. So you can kind of figure out where you fit in the marketplace once you've defined your competition. But analyze the market's conditions. The market will ultimately determine how successful your business is going to be. You're going to need to demonstrate that you have analyzed your target market. So we kind of go back to that pizza shop. How many customers do you think you're going to be serving? Where are you? What do you think the range of travel is? How much do you think their average spend is going to be? The competitive analysis should include a comprehensive assessment of the competition. So like when I said, know what they do well, know what they stink at. And then also describe the industry within which your business is going to operate, and provide a general profile of your target market. So this is like one of those exercises. You kind of have what in your mind, what your ideal customer looks like. Not necessarily, face wise or anything, but like, okay, my average customer is, and I can use, I'll use one of my companies as I've started like a mobile bar service. Okay. I will be launching in April. My target market is brides. Okay. They're the ones planning their weddings. So that's my first. My second is corporate events. So I know, okay, that my average bridal age is 25. That's kind of where I want to be, that 25 to 32-year-old female. And that her average wedding spend is $15,000 for her wedding. And so that kind of allows me to start, I call them picking off your customers, finding out where they hang out, where they're, and then what markets, or how do I get to them? How do I reach them? What advertising do I need to do in order to get in front of them so that they see my service? And you can do that for any kind of thing, but you visualize who your customer is, who's going to be spending their money with you, what do they look like, where do they shop, what are their habits, those kind of things. Just pencil it out. That's a Friday evening activity when you're bored, to sit there and kind of visualize who that is, and then kind of walk backwards out of that. And then once you've outlined the strengths and weaknesses of your competitors, you can create then and hone your strategy to give you that competitive advantage. Is there any questions on that, Wendy? No? Okay.
I don't see any questions yet.
Okay, thank you. The fourth section is sales and marketing plan. So this is kind of where you design your sales and marketing strategy. Here's where you put out that comprehensive marketing plan on how you plan to sell your product or service. So you kind of know who your ideal customer is, and then how are you going to get your product or service in their hands? And before working on your marketing and sales plan, you're going to need to have that market analysis completely fleshed out. And so go back into that, your target client, your ideal customers, you've got to have those and who they are and where they hang out. And then you're going to describe in this section how you intend to entice customers to buy your products or services, including advertising, promotion, social media, sales and distribution, your pricing strategy, your post-sales support. All of that goes here. And you're thinking, well, I'm just opening a pizza shop, right? Well, it's not that if you build it, they will come. And so how are you going to attract them? Are you running, specials and sales promotions? Are you sponsoring baseball teams? How are you getting the word out? Are you doing a feed the team after the game? Do you do, a biddy ball special or whatever that looks like, in order to, one, get your name out for the advertising and promotion piece, but then how do you keep and maintain that customer so that they are a retained customer? So that post-sales support. Any questions there? Again, marketing and sales is huge. I can spend days on this subject, and would be happy to chat, kind of in a one-off. I'm being very vague here because it is so broad across industry bases. But the biggest is know your customer, your target market, and how you're going to reach them. Those are the kind of the three takeaways from that piece.
Well, Kelly, if I can just interject really quickly.
Absolutely.
We do have a session that is scheduled for the last day of the conference that will drill down on marketing from Jared Depew with Metropolis Designs. So if everyone just remembers, add that to your agenda. It will be in the afternoon, 1:25 to 2:55. And the topic is how to use advertising in a changing world. So in that session, you can really drill down on what Kelly is talking about as far as marketing and knowing your audience.
Wendy, that's fantastic. Thank you. And I would encourage you all to check that out, because I'm sure he will have some great key takeaways for that session and really drill down. The fifth section is ownership and management. And this is where I would outline all of your operational and management roles. You don't necessarily have to get into your general labor pool unless there's specific duties or tasks that is assigned, but the operation and management roles, so definitely share that here. But it's also going to describe, the ownership, your legal structure, whether you're a sole proprietor, an LLC, a corporation, a co-op. We're kind of covering a lot of different legal structures there, but what is your incorporation status and your business's management and staffing requirements? So if you've got, that you need 3 people, you have an owner, maybe you have a manager, and then maybe you have, a couple of employees. What does that reporting look like? How do you divvy out tasks? You don't have to name the person, but name the position and outline those organizational and management structures within this this piece of the plan. It's super important. So I took a sabbatical from the university when I was there for about a year, and I was a human resource director. And the company that I was working in did not have an organizational, an org chart, and it created major dysfunction because we were doing a major acquisition of another company, and because I was trying to figure out where people fit in and like who do they report to now under this new structure. And so while that was a large corporation or a large company, this is the same as you have, if you've got a 5-man crew and you're bringing on an additional 2 employees, while you say they report to Jill, you have to outline that, and then the tasks, are the tasks now spread, or are they shifted, or is everyone, the multiple duties? So it's very, very important to keep your org chart up to date, because it not only keeps everyone rowing in the same path, but it also gives your employees, and we talk a lot about this, I'm sure you've heard this in multiple, kind of keeping and retaining employees, but it can also, if they see an org chart and you have a great employee, they see a path, a career pathway possibly. Like I maybe start out in general labor, but I can work up to this management role because that's already, it's defined. I see that person's in front of me, or they're ahead of me, or my superior, and I think I can get to that role. So that helps kind of keep your employees engaged because they maybe see a pathway within your company. I think here. Oh, and also if you've got key managers or owner, put their bio in here. It's super important. I created a business plan for the company that I was working in, and I had to refer to that kind of bio section multiple times. It was a copy and paste, but maybe that they were going to be presenting at a conference or something. I'm like, I don't have Sherry's bio. Oh, yes, I do. It's in the business plan. So if you've got someone in that role, it allows them to copy and paste and not bother someone to get a bio or whatever. Again, it's a functional document. Any questions there before I go on to the next couple?
Nothing in the chat, but I do have one question that we could probably put. I call it the parking lot where we put questions. Are there is there such thing as a grant for a startup?
So, typically, my standard answer is no, that there is not. Now, I have been proven wrong with CARES Act money and different things like that. That has proven me wrong. Mm-hmm. However, 99% of the time there is not necessarily startup money, like that someone is just going to write you a check. It is always reimbursement that I found. You have to expend the money, or at least allocate it, whether you're buying equipment, or something, to show proof of funds before there's not someone just writing a check. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because a lot of people think that we get a lot of calls here at the chamber asking about, hey, how do I apply for grants to get my business started? And I always have to deliver the news of, well, there are loan programs, but not grant programs. So I know there's a huge misconception out there.
Yes, absolutely. There are, I mean, so you'll find some in some pockets of communities, maybe they have some like $500 foundational grants. But again, that's going to be based on receipts. So you had to expend the money anyway. So that means you had to have the money and then show the receipt to be reimbursed. So that there are a few, but that is a misnomer. Wendy, you're correct that there is not grant money to start businesses. That's not, the government is not in the realm of starting businesses.
Yes, thank you.
No problem. Sixth kind of section is the operating plan. I've talked a little bit about this, but this is going to be more on the physical traits of so if you've got a brick and mortar or a warehouse, this is the physical requirement. So if you need the office space or retail space, equipment, inventory and supplies, and your labor. This is where you get really nitty gritty. That you know that you need 15,000 square feet of manufacturing space. That it has to have 3-phase power. You also have to have high bays, with docks and whatnot. This is going to be where you really get into the nitty gritty and details of operational. I also, if you're in like manufacturing or if there's a process, I mean, even a couple of the companies that I work with that are candle manufacturers. So they started out home-based and then they, excuse me, grew to needing a brick and mortar, or that they were, wholesaling to other shops and whatnot. They had to move out of their home and into a 3,000 square foot facility. And I was like, you need to detail the process from the jar to the pour, to your labeling, everything in between, because each one of those is a step. And when you have to hire someone or that your niece has to come in and work, you want to make sure that that's a process that's outlined, not only for quality control purposes, but it makes your employees more efficient when those operations are outlined. So for a one person, kind of startup, maybe a consulting firm or, something like that, this operating plan is going to be short and very straightforward. I'm operating out of my house, my dining room, or maybe you've converted a bedroom into an office space. It's very straightforward, and you're going to need, a computer and a printer. Done. However, like restaurants or manufacturers, like I spoke about, that require these kind of custom facilities and supply chains and multiple employees, specialized equipment, this operating plan needs to be very detailed. And then section 7, which I think is most critical and most important, is, so I often will say, so start here. Start with your finances first. When I'm doing one-on-one coaching sessions, we start with the numbers first because that dictates if we need to go any further. This section is the most crucial part of the business plan, especially if you need debt financing or accessing capital, or if you're looking to attract investors. The financial plan must demonstrate your business's ability to grow and that it has a profitable potential. So you're going to need to provide, income statements, cash flow statements, balance sheets, forecast. And the golden rule here, and you guys can all write this down or bullet point this out. I have a cash flow model that I would be happy to share with everyone. Wendy, I'll send that to you. I also have a couple business plan templates that I'll send to you as well. So the golden rule of financials is to underestimate your revenues and overestimate your expenses. Mm-hmm. So that, if the teeter-totter gets tilted a little bit, you're still in a good spot. But start with the thing that we almost always know what your monthly operating costs are because we can put hard dollars to it. So I said that's the easiest place to start is 2 places. One, what your equipment needs are, so any like equipment, real estate, those needs. And then 2, start with your monthly operating expenses. You kind of know what your utilities are going to be. You're going to know what you're advertising. Those are easy to come up with. Then we can work backwards or forwards, however you want to work, to figure out how many customers and the average sale you have to have on the daily in order to cover your costs. That's where we can really kind of hone in to see if this is a profitable venture, for a startup or even expansion for a business, is if we work backwards out of that. So start with the expenses and then go to your sales, your revenue. Any questions on that?
Nothing yet.
Okay. Oh, wait, I just went through this. All right, let me kind of go back here. If we go back to, the market conditions, and I spoke a little bit about your SWOT analysis. So is everyone familiar with the SWOT analysis?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so kind of draw out your square, your squares there, and put your strengths and your weaknesses and opportunities and threats. This, after the financials, is probably the second piece that I would do, just because it allows you, one, it's visual, two, it gets your mind turning. So when I say that this is kind of a mental exercise, this one is one you're like, okay, I can start to think and see, how everything fits together, and maybe those risks that I'm maybe not seeing, and do this with someone. I know sometimes we like to be internally focused or not share. Do this with someone that you trust, or whether it's an SBDC advisor or myself or an MBAC counselor. Sit down and talk to them about and go through this exercise, because they'll be able to pose those questions to you, like, what about this? What about this? Maybe things that you're not thinking of, because as entrepreneurs, we all have blind spots. So I think that's a good exercise to sit down with someone and just really hash that out. I didn't really realize that I had went all the way through this. So as I just kept talking and not adjusting my screen, I apologize.
Kelly, while we're doing that, I do have a question.
Yep.
They ask, is it worthwhile to hire a consultant to complete a business plan and a pitch for a startup? The prices that they're looking at are $250 to $500 through a certain company. But aren't those some of the services that you can get at no cost through ECDI and the Women's Business Center and the SBDC?
So yes. So here's my answer to that. I don't ever want to get in the way of someone's business, that someone has established themselves as that person, right? And so that's their business. But that service is available through professionals that have been doing this for a very long time, and then this is their career, through the small business development centers, through the minority business assistance centers, through the women's business centers, that is something that the individuals all across the state of Ohio have been trained. Most of us hold a certified business advisor certification, or in some various shape or form. So you can go that way, especially if you feel comfortable, but know that this same result and or even a better relationship. I don't know this company, so I'm not speaking against them or for them, but if you work with one of the advisors from these organizations, they're a coach, they're a mentor, they're through the whole process. So not only the business planning process, but they're also going to establish that relationship with you, when you have training needs. And I don't know if this consultant can offer I'm going to need QuickBooks training, or I'm going to need something on the social media, building my social media strategy. I don't know if that's what they offer, but those organizations I spoke about do offer that in conjunction with business planning. So while business planning is a piece of what they offer, they have so much more capability and tools and resources to assist not just the business planning, but on all aspects of business ownership and those kind of 3 pillars of money, marketing, and management. Does that help?
Yeah, and just to continue with that, I think like you said, it's a comfort level. There may be some industry specific consultants that could really drill down and help in other ways that perhaps the organizations that you mentioned, may just be an overview. So I think it really, the comfort level, and it really depends on what your needs are, what your business is. But I am a true advocate, and I've always said this to anyone that I meet who is going into business. It pays to make a relationship with someone who is in your line of work, who is a business owner in that sector, perhaps. If you're wanting to open a bakery, it's not a bad thing to ask someone who's owned a bakery for 20 years as kind of a mentor. Interview them, talk to them, get to know them, see what the inside of their business is. I've never met any business owner who is not happy to share their insight, what they've done wrong in the past, how they corrected it. But from what I've seen, that's a great resource as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would kind of echo what Wendy said as well. There are, so let's say that there's a
Uh-oh. Hey, everybody. Can everybody see me? I think we lost Kelly. Okay. Yeah, we did lose Kelly, didn't we?
Hi guys, I'm back.
Here you are.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
The wind was blowing here in Southern Ohio and our internet connection goes out. You know how that goes.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Okay. I think that's all I had. Was there any questions? I'd be happy. I know Wendy, I think there's, one here for you. What are the services that you offer at the chamber? Or kind of go in detail of that and
Sure. Well, at the chamber, we do a little bit of everything. As the Small Business Resource Navigator, I work to coordinate between our investors as well as any business owner who needs that assistance, needs that push. The key part is we have the general public who will come in and they will say, "Hey, I have a business idea. What do I need to do?" And that's whenever I sit down with them, go over the Secretary of State website, and then I start feeling them out to our individuals like Kelly. Here's what you'll need to concentrate on as far as getting established with your EIN. Secretary of State website is a great list of step-by-step things you need to do. I go over a little bit about what kind of business structure they would want to look at. One thing that we are going to be offering here at the chamber coming up starting in March, we're going to have called Chillicothe Thrive, and it's going to be a resource for individuals to learn about starting a business. Cybersecurity is going to be one of our features. We're partnering with the SBA. Kelly, I think we're going to be partnering with you. The SBDC is going to be coming in and doing an overview of business planning. And then we're going to drill down on marketing, social media, how to use the analytics from social media to guide your business. Other things that we're going to be doing is working with our investors about how they pivoted their businesses. So those are some of the things that I'm working on. We also offer some savings programs that are good for our established businesses, our brick and mortars. We have an energy savings program that can help them with their utilities. We can help businesses, especially smaller businesses under 5 employees, help get health insurance so that they can add more of an incentive to keep their workforce and keep them thriving. So there's a lot of things that we do here at the Chamber that we're looking out for businesses, and we're leveraging our resources like Kelly to make sure that they're getting everything that they need to make their business thrive. One thing is we have a lot of our small businesses are entrepreneurs who make our downtown what it is. I work closely with that group of people. And we have one individual business that during the COVID shutdown, they thrived because they immediately pivoted their business from being, they're still a brick and mortar, but they went into kind of let's use the internet kind of mode, and they really capitalized on everybody being stuck at home and just wanting to shop. So they really pivoted their business, and it's transformed their business. So we really help people kind of reimagine what they want to do. And we've seen a lot of growth in our downtown and across the county. So that's kind of what we do here at the Chamber.
Okay, I think Deborah had posted a question of the Women's Business Centers or ECBI around Ohio. I have the Women's Business Centers. Here's our contact information. And then you can always visit ecbi.org, and I will share that in the link because we do have some smaller office locations around the state. So I will drop that in there. But these are the WBC directors around the state of Ohio.
And of course, if you're in the Chillicothe or Ross area, Kelly can actually join or meet with you at our office that's centrally located. So Kelly has that opportunity anytime if you need to meet halfway. And one question that I had, Kelly, the women's business centers, are those just limited to women entrepreneurs?
We are not. We are, we serve everyone. We are open to everyone. We were just chartered by the SBA to provide services or additional services to women. So women are traditionally, undercapitalized and in different markets. So we provide programming specifically for women, a lot of maybe self-care things or building that sense of community that women often crave and need. But like 50% of my clients, and I think I would speak for the rest of our directors around the state, are, in some way, shape, or form close to that number are male. We serve everyone, but we just have specific programming that's maybe a little bit more tailored to women, in some of our training events that's really maybe focused on that work-life balance. We're all maybe still working from home and, trying to do home duties and kids because they're still home. So, kind of that work-life balance that comes from being a female entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm. Another question that we have is, do you help businesses with creating a video to promote their businesses?
We can, yes. So using our partners, the Women's Business Centers, we have what we call our Professional Advisory Network, and we love acronyms, in government or whatever, but we call it the PAN. That's our Professional Advisory Network, and we have anywhere from attorneys to marketing specialists, videographers, accountants, all of they either donate or subsidize their service costs, which we then, pass that along. We take that that cost for you, or it would be very, very low cost for you to maybe create that video, to promote your businesses, that we would hire a videographer that's within our PAN at a very, very reduced price because we offset that. So when you kind of talk about those like grant dollars, Wendy. That's one of those things that while it's not a true, we're not giving someone money, but we are subsidizing major costs for entrepreneurs.
Funny that you should mention that. Actually, we here at the Chamber have established we're a video series right now that we're in the middle of shooting, and it's called 5 Questions With, and it's where Mike, our director, goes out to different businesses, and we're really concentrating on the smaller businesses, the businesses that don't get a whole lot of attention, or the ones that we feel need to have some attention brought on them. And we're doing video sessions with them, and where Mike asks 5 questions that are specific to them. We actually did the first one with Class Act School of Cosmetology, which was fun. And getting Mike to enunciate esthetician was hilarious. And then we're also doing, I think he did Crazy Dogs Grill today. He's doing Anytime Fitness this week. So that is a great way to get kind of a marketing piece. There's no cost to the business, but the director or the guy who is filming it, the videographer, is offering a reduced rate to chamber investors. So as a way to get those investors to continue with the video side of things. And it's a way for them to pivot their marketing strategy. So that's one thing that we've done. Deborah is asking, how do businesses get connected and other organizations as well with your programming? The Pivot program at the African American Chamber also helps with video production. She does want me to mention that. Let's see. And you're putting your links in the chat, which is great. But I do encourage anybody to go to her website and the Women's Business Center and see what services they have that will benefit you and your business. Okay. What is the name of the companies that you work with, the businesses for your video production?
And I have to go to my outbox or my inbox real quickly.
Okay.
And I think Bonnie is on this call as well. Bonnie, can you throw Audrey's information in there?
And we have quite a few videographers who are chamber investors here at the Chillicothe Ross Chamber, and you can check out our directory to see them. Oh, you use Bryce from Piketon.
Yes. I'm trying to find his website.
Okay. And Audrey Scheisser is located in Portsmouth?
Yes.
Yep. Let's see.
Thank you, Bonnie. Wendy, I can email Deborah, I can email you Bryce's. I don't have his business card in front of me.
Okay. And one comment I do have, Kelly, I think your information has been spot on today, because I think that business planning is extremely important and it's often missed. I've talked to a couple of the business lenders at our area banks and credit unions, and they have a lot of people who make appointments with them to come talk about funding, getting loans to start their business, and they don't know what a P&L is. They don't know what cost projections are. They have no market research. They have no executive summary. They actually are like, business plan, what's that? So I think this is a great way to communicate that a business plan is necessary before you can even start to look at a business entity. And And that's usually the part that scares people the most. Hey, I want to do this. I have this talent. I have this service I can provide. And, oh, I need to do all that work. So, but the work pays off, definitely. Do you need to live in the Portsmouth area to get your services? Are you regional or are you statewide?
So we are statewide with the Women's Business Centers. We cover kind of the whole state, all 88 counties. We have, kind of offices, but we utilize a circuit rider, model, at least out of my center that I come to, wherever you are. Now Columbus kind of stays within their center, but with Zoom technology, we can meet with anyone at any time. Mm-hmm. So, we're in kind of all 4 quadrants. Their information is there and they can access them. But if you want to work with me or Ella, I think Ella's still on the call. She's in Cincinnati. We would be happy. And if there's a different skill set that I don't have, I would shift that over to one of my colleagues because we all kind of have a different skill set. Yeah, there's Ella. She's commenting. So I'll kick that over to her. And Ella, feel free to, if there's anything you wanted to jump in.
The financial literacy, do you do financial literacy that is business oriented or do you do all encompassing financial literacy?
So we do a little bit of both. We have those pre-venture entrepreneurs that aren't quite ready for accessing capital and so that they need some financial literacy training. And then every month we have such a robust training calendar at the Women's Business Center that kind of focuses on those like 3 pillars of money, marketing, and management. So it may be one, and I'd have to look at our upcoming calendar, but understanding your cash flow. So that would be a piece of that, financial literacy, or reading your income statement and those kind of things of understanding your personal, financial statement, getting that in order. That is something that we offer often.
Perfect. One last question that we have. Deborah, you may be able to answer this. Where do we see the link to rewatch this recording? Kelly, this is actually a compliment. I will be using it over and over as the information has been and will continue to be so useful. So that's excellent.
Wonderful.
Yes. And Marilyn, we'll make sure that the links are available so that you can rewatch any of the sessions and be able to use this information to help with your work. I'll also try to share these on our Facebook page for the chamber as soon as I technologically figure that out. All right, we have 3 minutes left of today's session, and I just want to use that time to thank Kelly for the time that she spent with us, the absolute wonderful information about business planning, and I hope that everyone has taken a lot of information back so that you can help as many people as possible to understand the importance of business planning and to help them with their success. I do have a full list of everyone who wants information, and Kelly will be sending her notes and her presentation to me, and I'll make sure that these are emailed out to you. We'll also make it a point to have a list of those resources for that we spoke about, the best tools for market research and where to go to get that information. Okay. And we'll make sure that everybody who is on today, we have your emails through your registrations. We'll make sure this information gets out to you. And at 2:55, we have closing remarks. And then the vendor booths will open until 3:35. And that will conclude our first day of today's We Mean Business conference. We'll see you back tomorrow and then again on Thursday. I just want to let anybody know who is in the Ross County area that day 3 on Thursday, we will have a satellite site open here at the Chillicothe Ross Chamber in downtown Chillicothe We do have space available if anyone wants to come in and utilize our space to take part in the third day of the conference. We'll also have lunch provided. So if anyone wants to do that, just reach out to me, Wendy Bennett, wbennett at chillicotheohio.com, and we'll make sure that we have space for you. All right. Thank you so much. Yes, lunch is provided by the SBA. Thanks, Deborah. All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Have a great day.